Cypress Financial Group presents the Retirement Roundtable podcast with John Scallan. Get more at cypressfinancial.net. Now, let's get to the show.
My name is Mark Owens, and John got a great call last week, and I just want to jump right into it. From a gentleman getting close to retirement, and he simply said, John, I'm worried about my debt. How much debt should I be taking into retirement? And John, a follow-up, is there a such thing as good debt versus bad debt?
Well, good morning to you, my friend. Great to be here. Mark, let's just talk about the D word. Listen, I have seen clients who came in here with absolutely zero debt. I mean, here's the reality. It takes a lot less fuel, a lot less income, significantly fewer assets if you are trying to, power 30 years in income in retirement with zero debt. But sometimes that's just not practical. If there is one debt that you could drag into retirement, I don't think, your mortgage would be the worst thing that you could bring in. Now, when you think about credit cards, when you think about, paying for a bunch of stuff that's really not affordable or not viable to your lifestyle in retirement, man, if you're eyeballing this, if you're on the runway to retirement, really grind, really have the discipline to get that pushed out of the way. Because again, going into retirement as lean as you can be from a debt perspective is often the real difference between having a stress-free retirement and kind of being under the gun.
When people spread money across different funds in their 401k, it's called diversification. Sounds smart, not putting all your eggs in one basket. But there's something happening under the hood that most people don't realize. I want you to hear this clip from Dominic Papalardo. He's from Morningstar, and he says,
investors may build a portfolio. Think of your 401k account, for example. Maybe you own a broad market, the S&P 500 diversified fund. Maybe you also have a growth fund to try and get some upside. One of the index providers I looked at, the top 8 names in their broad market fund were exactly the same as the top 8 names in their growth style index. So investors may be attempting to get diversification by holding funds in different categories, and they're really not because there's so much overlap from these large names. So even people that think they're trying to minimize that risk may not actually be doing that.
Is overlapping, John Scallan, is it a problem in 401ks?
Oh, Mark, all the time. I mean, here's what happens. Someone walks through our door. They hand me their 401k statement. We talk a little bit about diversification, and they say, listen, I'm really diversified. I've got, say, 8 or 10 different funds here. Then we actually peel back the layers and we go straight to the holding section of each of these funds that they're in. Guess what? That broad market fund they own, top holdings, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google. Then we look at their growth fund, top holdings, Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, mid-cap fund, same names continue to pop up. Clients think they're spread out across 8 funds, but really they just own the same tech stocks 8 different times. So when tech gets hit, and inevitably it will, everything drops together. Mark, that's not what we call diversification. That's called concentration with extra steps.
So what is the right move, John?
Well, first we need to look at what you actually own inside, not just how many funds you have, but second, and this is bigger for someone approaching retirement, we need to talk about risk money versus conservative money. Money you need for growth versus money that's positioned for income. When you're 30 or 40 years old, sure, go ahead, be aggressive, ride the market. You've got a couple of decades to recover from a potential 2008 or another pandemic rolling across the world. But listen, when you're 60 years old, 3 to 5 years from retirement, you can't have everything exposed to market risk. Because if we get that large crash right when you need to start taking income, that is what kills retirement plans. Here's what we do at Cypress. We split things up. Some money stays in the market for growth. Some money moves to income-focused investments, maybe bonds, maybe annuities that offer guaranteed income, moderate growth. Mark, this is not about timing the market. It's about positioning yourself so a bad market at the wrong time doesn't destroy everything that you've worked so hard to build.
So I'm listening to what you say about how I'm diversified in my portfolio, and I want to check it out on my own. John Scallan, what can I do?
Simple exercise. Pull up your 401k statement online, click the ticker symbol, look at each fund that you own. Then one of the first major categories when you're looking at the fact sheet of your 401k is top 10 holdings. Write these down. I bet you're going to see a lot of the names that are in multiple funds that you own. That is your first clue that you're not quite as diversified as you initially thought. And if you're within 5 to 10 years of retirement, Mark, that's when you really need to start thinking about splitting things between growth and income-focused investments. Please don't wait until retirement day to figure that critical equation out.
I want to get your take on this. This comes from one of these financial websites that I follow, and somebody wrote in asking for some advice. They said, I'm 80 years old. I have $6 million in an IRA. My RMD is $300,000. What am I supposed to do about this tax bill? John, sounds like there's a bit of a problem. How do you handle that?
Yeah, Mark, that's a massive problem. And here's the thing. This person did just about everything right. They saved. They maxed out their 401k. They probably lived with some discipline and lived below their means, but nobody actually told them that they were basically saving in Uncle Sam's retirement account. Every dollar in a traditional IRA, that's government waiting to take their cut. And at age 73, Mark, they come knocking, requiring minimum distributions to come out of that contract. So now this person with $6 million is forced to pull out $300,000 a year, whether they need it or not. Guess what? This particular distribution, I'm sure, pushes them, if not into the highest tax bracket, but very near the top. They're paying 35 to 37% to the IRS on money that they did not even want to spend. Meanwhile, if we'd started doing strategic Roth conversions year earlier, guess what? We could have moved that money over at 12%, 22%, maybe 24%, and locked in tax-free growth for the rest of their lives.
Is there a window where this makes sense?
Absolutely, Mark. The sweet spot is usually between when you retire early and when you start Social Security. Maybe you retire at 62 years old. Social Security won't start until, let's say, 67. For those 5 years, you might be in the lowest tax bracket that you will ever see again. That's when we start converting. Not the whole IRA at once. That would create its own tax problem, but we do this strategically every year. Stay just below the higher tax brackets, pay tax now at today's rates, get that money into a Roth where it grows tax-free forever. I mean, get this. No RMDs on Roth, no taxes when you take that money out, and when you pass away, your kids inherit it tax-free. But you have got to plan ahead. The 80-year-old with the $300,000 RMD, just a bit too late. That ship, unfortunately, has sailed.
So get ahead of it. Prior planning pays. That's what I'm hearing from John Scallan and the team at Cypress Financial. So you mentioned the word sweet spot. What if I'm in that sweet spot? What can I do right now, John?
If you're retired now, but not yet taking Social Security, or you're in a low tax bracket this year, for whatever the reason, go online, look up the current tax brackets. You can find them on the IRS website. Figure out where you are, then ask yourself, could I convert $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 from my traditional IRA to a Roth and stay in a reasonable tax bracket? Mark, you can certainly go to the IRS website or you can call Cypress Financial. My recommendation is don't just go do it without talking to someone, to an expert. There are details that matter here, specifically in the tax planning. But at least you'll know whether it's worth exploring, because every year you miss in that window, that's a missed opportunity that you cannot get back.
John, we were talking, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, you were traveling, little international trip south of the border, had some time in Mexico City. Have you fully recovered from that trip yet?
I think I'm still carrying a few extra pounds, but I'm getting there. It doesn't come off as easy as it once did, my friend.
As I tell kids all the time, I'm like, kids, appreciate that hair and metabolism because both of them are going to go eventually. But when you were traveling and you were flying, how was the TSA? Did you experience any of those delays?
You know, I had a 6 a.m. flight out of New Orleans and then a 5 a.m. flight coming out of Mexico City. I mean, you know, I really didn't notice that much.
Good.
You know, fortunately, we made it to our gate without any real pain.
Good. Well, speaking of pain, is sometimes when you book that ticket and you see all the absurd fees that the airlines keep tacking on. WestJet, a Canadian airline, is now charging passengers an extra fee, John Scallan, if they want to recline their seat. Now you have to pay extra if you want to lean back. Now, if you do have a flight booked on WestJet, it's not every single flight, but John, it doesn't matter if you're in the air for 15 minutes or 5 hours. Having to pay just to get comfortable seems a little out of control. And this got me thinking about retirement accounts. The little fees here, the little fees there. Are people paying more than they realize just to be comfortable with their financial future?
Yeah, Mark, 2 comments. First of all, you can bet your bottom dollar I won't be flying WestJet.
Yes, sir.
But back to the fees. I mean, absolutely. And most people really have no idea. Listen, if I could pound the table, I would be pounding the table about fees. They are like termites. They're hidden. You don't see them. You don't know they're there, but they just eat away at the foundation of your retirement plan. You look at a 401k statement. You don't see a bill for fees, so people assume there are very little or none at all. But trust me, the fees are there. Many times they're buried inside of these funds. Expense ratios, management fees, administrative costs. Some funds have sales loads, sales charges. Add it all up, you could be paying, 2%, even 2.5% every year. Now, you might think, okay, 2%, that's not terrible. Except here's what people miss. That 2% compounds against you the same way interest compounds for you. Say you've got $500,000. Let's call it 2% fees. That's $10,000 a year. Over 20 years with compound growth, those fees cost you, and I am not exaggerating, hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost growth. Meanwhile, you've got someone paying, let's say, 0.3% in low-cost index funds. That's an additional $7,500 difference every year that stays in your account, compounds, and it grows. Again, over a lifetime, we're talking about $250,000, maybe even $500,000 in difference in your account balance.
John Scallan, is there a simplistic way? Is there a way to find out what we're actually paying?
Certainly you can call HR. Certainly you can go at it alone. My recommendation, bring us your statements. We'll do a complete fee analysis. We'll show you exactly what you're paying, everything, not just the obvious stuff. And then we'll show you what that's costing you long term. Because look, if you're paying high fees but getting great service and great returns, maybe it's worth it. But usually what we find is people are paying high fees for not more than average returns, and they don't hear from their advisor often enough to justify that extra cost. That, my friend, is when you've got a real problem.
So what could we do? Like, give us, I don't want to say homework, but is there like a way, a challenge so we can start figuring some of this out on our own?
Yeah, again, it's time to roll up your sleeves, man. Pull up that 401k or IRA or brokerage account online. Look for a category called fund expense ratio and look for this for each investment you own. It's usually shown as a percentage. Now do this, write down each one, add them up, then divide by how many funds you have. That gives you a rough average. If you're over 1%, you're probably paying too much. If you're over 1.5%, definitely time to take a closer look. And here's the thing. You might not be able to change your 401k fees while you're still working. But once you retire and roll it over, that's when you've got control. That's when you can make much better choices.
John Scallan, I've been waiting until the end of the show, but I wanted to get your take on it. The dust has settled. We've had a little time to think about it. We know you are a huge LSU fan. Brian Kelly, relieved of his duties as head coach of LSU. 4 seasons, 34-14. What was your initial reaction? And now that we've had a little bit of time, how you feeling about it?
Oh, boy, I didn't think you'd let me alive off this show without talking about LSU football. Look, this recent loss to Texas A&M, I think, that was the final straw. I mean, I think the official statement that came out of the LSU athletic department was something like the success at the level that LSU demands, it simply did not materialize. I don't think it can be better said. I mean, look, Brian Kelly has won a lot of football games. He seems to be a real good human being. But when you think about LSU football, the entire state hangs its hopes on this team. This team to not only win the the SEC championship, but to at least get us into the playoff and have a shot at the Natty. None of this materialized with Brian Kelly. Again, I wish him well. I think his heart was in the right place. But Mark, truthfully, I just don't know if he was ever the right fit for the LSU football program.
College football, it giveth and it taketh away. And that what it gives and takes away is our hair and emotions. It's painful being an SEC fan. We're seeing it across college football. A handful of coaches have already been dismissed. Poor starts, losing records, not making it to the playoffs. But, I see these coaches on the hot seat, getting released, finding new head coaches. John, this is kind of like what you do. Like our financial advisor, it's our coach. So if somebody's listening this weekend and they're going, you know what? I've been working with this big box firm and I just feel like they're not calling the right plays to make sure I can get into the playoffs and win a championship, i.e. make it to retirement. So what are some of the signs it might be time to put my big box advisor on the hot seat?
You never cease to amaze me how you will turn a can of tuna fish into a financial planning topic. Great segue, man. I like the way you tied all that together. But listen, here are some red flags. One, you're really reluctant to call the advisor. I mean, if you feel like you're bothering your advisor, that's a problem. Remember this, they work for you. Here's the second one. They really don't listen. You're trying to communicate an issue that's bothering you, and maybe it feels like they're just waiting for their turn to talk and not to really hear your concerns. Let's talk about another one. Your life is changing, but the advice you're getting is not. Maybe you're getting closer to retirement. Maybe you've had a major life event. If your advisor has not adjusted your strategy, they're probably not paying enough attention to you and your portfolio. Couple of more. Maybe they only call when they want to move money around or sell something. That's not advice, Mark. That is sales. And let me finish with this. You don't understand what you own or why. If you can't explain your strategy in plain English, something's wrong. And Mark, please don't take this as me bashing the other advisors out there. I've worked with men and women who work at other firms, and they have really committed their life to the fiduciary standard. They've committed their practice to extremely high levels of service and expertise. But again, if any of these things that I've just mentioned are the kind of experience you're having with your advisor, maybe it's time to have a different set of eyes on your plan and your portfolio.
What's the best way to reach out to you and the team at Cypress Financial? Because somebody's listening right now and they're going, man, I'm working with that big box advisor. Yeah, I feel bad calling them. I don't want to interrupt their day. I feel like I'm a chore to them. Or even worse, I feel like I'm just a number. So how can we contact you?
Very easy to find. We're always available at cypressfinancial.net. Many of our clients initially reached out to us through the website, booked an appointment. You can always call us, 504-732-1001. We have an office on Causeway Boulevard on the South Shore, Florida Street on the North Shore. And remember, that first meeting with us at Cypress, complimentary, no cost, no obligation. We will look at what you have. We will show you, if appropriate, what we do differently, if anything at all, and then you can make an informed decision on whether to move forward with this plan or keep with your current advisor.
Investment advisory services offered through Cypress Financial Group, a registered investment advisor firm. Registration is not an endorsement of the firm by securities regulators. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance products, including annuities offered through Cypress Financial Group, John Scallan, Louisiana Insurance License Number 1064997. The firms are separate entities. Annuity guarantees rely on the financial strength and claims paying ability of the issuing insurance company and are not offered by Cypress Financial Group. Read your contract for restrictions, limitations, or penalties.